Wait, so they can turn them on and off? And Dylan is a father? What the? Hey everyone, I'm Brent the Middleman, your middle-aged middle manager in Middle America in a midlife crisis, here today with another video about Apple TV's beautifully cryptic series Severance. We are up to episode 6, and I'm thoroughly enjoying everything about this show. In today's video, I'll be breaking down everything we saw and attempt to theorize about where things may be headed. So, spoiler alert, in case I luck out and get something right, now grab your partner, head to the plant room, and make sweet, sweet baby goats all workday long. The episode starts off with a look into the home life of Miss Koble. And on the crazy scale of 1 to Kanye, this was a solid 9. Her bedroom looks like a replica of the girl's home we see referenced, and she has friggin' Kier and Myrtle Egan dolls. We see her turning Petey's Severance implant into a necklace and feeling pretty darn good about it. She gets a call from Grainer, and he lets her know that they may have tracked down who helped Petey with his reintegration. He tells her that it traces to some of Lumen's equipment, and specifically to a person named Rugabi. Grainer says that she cracked reintegration and he is going to find her. Koble doesn't seem very happy about this, and I'm getting the feeling that she doesn't want it to be possible. More on this at the end. She leaves her weird room and kneels in front of a candlelit shrine. We see that it's a shrine to Kier Egan, and it's pretty elaborate. We see the picture of her in front of the Myrtle Egan School for Girls, which it says was founded in 1952, and most likely where Koble's indoctrination began. And I believe her bedroom is a replica of her room from this school. There's a box labeled Lumen High Quality Pharmaceuticals, a creepy gesture head, and a card that says, "Probity, you will never progress in perfecting your imperfect self." The rest is covered, but I think it says until you ... There's what looks like some kind of breathing tube and a hospital wristband that says Charlotte Koble and dated 3/17/44. Was this a relative of Harmony's, her mother, or a sister? It's funny that this episode aired on 3/18. Did Harmony also lose somebody, and this drew her to Kier and his teachings, just like the severance procedure draws hurt people? Based on all the awards, Harmony was definitely a top Kier follower, as Kier doesn't strike me as the everyone gets a trophy type. She even attended something called the Kiernival. Mark, who has been haunted by seeing Petey collapse, rushed into his basement to find the flip phone. He opens it and is shocked by all the missed calls and its incredibly long battery life. He's about to head to work when he decides to trash the phone. Outie Mark just does not want to rock the boat. At Lumen, Bert and Irving take a not romantic walk to an office that is filled with large plants. They are happy to have the alone time, and all the oxygen gets Bert's motor running, and he reminds Irv that the manual doesn't say anything about lip-to-lip contact. Smooth. But things are moving a bit too fast for Irv, so Bert will have to get that O&D another day. Back to the outside world, and Mark's sister Devin is walking in the park with her newborn when she sees the rich lady from the birthing cabin next to hers. This is a very strange scene, as the woman doesn't seem to recognize Devin at all. Back at the birthing center, the woman told Devin that she was going to name her son William, but here at the park, she tells her his name is Bradley. This would shock me too, because, Bradley? Her husband comes over and definitely gives off that same creepy vibe as the unsevered managers at Lumen. Devin is understandably freaked out by the interaction, and we find out later this motivated her to do some research on the family. Back at Lumen, Mark continues to read Rickon's ridiculously awesome self-help book. Mark is reading chapter 29 called Camaraderie. The book says, "What does camaraderie mean? Most linguists agree it comes from the Latin camera, which means a device used to take a photograph. And of course, the best photographs are not of individuals, but groups of happy friends who love each other deeply. But I think camaraderie is more than smiling together in photos, it's standing together in hard times. It's recognizing a common struggle in another person and reaching out to offer them a loving hand." This is so perfect. Rickon obviously didn't even bother to look up the word, he just made something up because camaraderie kind of starts with the word camera, but not really. But any Mark is eating it up and is immediately able to put Rickon's advice into practice when the MDR team is deciding if they should go back to O&D. Obviously, Irv wants to go back, and Dylan thinks it's just so he can fraternize. But what does fraternize mean? Most linguists agree that it comes from the Latin frat, which means a collection of douchebags. We find out that O&D is making things in those 3D printers, and Helly suggests that they go on another mental health walk. Helly also drops a nice praise Kier. Because of the light flirting, Dylan and Irv now suspect that Mark and Helly may have their own fraternization going on. Mark is in Koble's office, where we learn that Miss Casey, the wellness counselor, is something called a part-time innie. Does this mean she only works a few hours a day, or that sometimes she is in the office unsevered? Koble tells Mark that because Miss Casey failed to keep an eye on Helly, that she is now in the break room getting broken. Once again, Mark tries to go to the break room for someone else, and Koble says, values. Not a core principle, but aren't you sweet? So values isn't a core principle? That explains a lot. Mark also learns that Koble has been watching him and Helly explore the office. This leads to him finally coming out and asking, what is it we actually do here? Koble responds with another out-of-nowhere angry outburst, like when she threw the cup at him, yelling, "We serve Kier!" Then she lets Mark know that until his team hits quota, their hallway privileges are revoked. Instead of his usual cowering response, though, Mark actually looks pissed off. He must have been recalling the quote from Rickon's book, "They can't crucify you if your hand is in a fist." Dylan is telling Helly that the will they won't they energy between him and Miss Casey is getting intense, and he even wore a nice new shirt for her. Helly reminds him that he had no idea who she was when he picked out the shirt, but he claps back, saying that maybe love overrides Severance. She asks him if he really thinks that, and he quickly says, no. Man, I love Dylan. Then Dylan asks Helly about her and Mark, saying, baby goats? Helly asks if he's implying that baby goats means sex with Mark S. He says, yeah, and she quickly puts that rumor to bed. This also reminded me that it's been quite a long time since I've had any baby goats. Despite Koble's rule, Mark decides that camaraderie is more important and takes the team to O&D anyway. Bert takes them back into the gigantic printer room and introduces them to the group. Helly comments that this is the most people that she has ever seen, and Mark agrees. And even though change can be disorienting, everyone starts getting to know each other. One of the O&D staff asks them what they refine, and Irv quickly changes the subject, asking them about the watering cans they are printing today. Bert thinks they may be making supplies for the executive upstairs, but he's not sure because last week's output had more of an aggressive feel. One of the workers then says, the hatchets weren't aggressive. What? Why would this innie not consider hatchets aggressive? And why was she quickly shushed by the older lady we first met with Bert? This is also interesting because I believe we saw hatchets being used in both of the paintings depicting violence between departments. Is Lumen planning to supply them all weapons for a battle? Are some of the O&D desensitized to violence? Oh, please let this happen. Mark lets the O&D team know about the baby goat department, and Bert reveals that a lot is unknown to them as well. But they keep doing the work because it's important. Irv agrees it's important, and Helly asks the question we all want to ask, is it important because it's actually important, or is it important because you say it is? Mark suggests the two business units work together to find out more about the severed floor. He brings up the Egan philosophy of illumination beyond all, and wonders why it doesn't apply to them. He was much more poetic about it, though. He actually first said illumination above all, but Irv corrected him that it's beyond all. This is what the show is doing to me. I'm questioning every little word. Let me know in the comments if you think being beyond instead of above is important. Meanwhile, Dylan sneaks off to the back of the department and finds laminated cards depicting ways to incapacitate another person, and he sneaks one into his pocket. Are these cards teaching people how to fight off the larva or something that may attack them? At the same time, Bert is suggesting that he and Mark go down to the goat department to see if they could find out more. He says each person can bring one aide-de-camp. An aide-de-camp is a military term, meaning an officer is acting as a confidential assistant to a senior officer. Does that mean that Bert was a soldier? But it's just then that Milchek busts in to break up the party. They get to their office to find Koble standing there, and Koble breaks into song. Kier, chosen one, Kier. Kier, brilliant one, Kier. Brings the bounty to the plain through the torment and the rains. Progress, knowledge, show no fear. Kier, chosen one, Kier. Koble lectures Mark, and Grainer shows up to take Mark to the break room for a little more breaking. As Mark is walking down the narrow hallway to the room, he sees Miss Casey coming out. Awkward. He whispers a sorry as they squeeze by each other, but Miss Casey does not seem to appreciate it. We see Mark's hand about to grab the door handle when it jump cuts to Outie Mark at dinner and his knuckles are bruised like he was in a fight. We see he's on another date with Alexa, and he tells her that he was told he hurt his hand putting a jug of water on the cooler. This date is going much better, and Mark even opens up about his dead wife. Meanwhile, Devin is Googling the rich lady who didn't remember her, Gabriella Arteta. She learns that her husband, Angelo, is a state senator and a vocal supporter of the legalized severance movement. The family even had their photo taken for Kier Life magazine, and it says they live in the town of Kier. Yeah, not creepy at all. The article talks about how their home life has been upended by the frequently traumatic renovation of their kitchen. In the article, she says, "It's hard on the kids and it's hard on me. There's something so viscerally upsetting about having your home literally torn apart. It makes you appreciate having a proper place to live." So, her biggest concern is that she is constantly remodeling her kitchen. This lady is obviously severed, and her husband is holding the remote control. I'm not gonna lie, this seems pretty perfect. The next article calls the senator a leading figure in the severance debate and said he's taken a stand on defending corporations like Lumen's use of the controversial severance procedure. Corporations like Lumen. So it's not just Lumen using this technology, but did it start at Lumen? This raises so many questions. But before we can learn more, Devin is interrupted by the arrival of the latching specialist, Mrs. Selvig. Holy crap, this lady is everywhere, and she really seems to know what she's doing. She gets baby Eleanor to calm down right away by humming the Kier, chosen one, Kier tune, and it seems like she's going to get the job. That's when the show drops the biggest bomb yet. We see a kid covering his eyes and counting to 700. Then in the closet, it's Milchek with Dylan. He is asking any Dylan about the infographic card he took from O&D. Any Dylan is freaked out being in his Audie's home, and Milchek lets him know that this is so important they had to wake him up outside of the office. First of all, they can do that? Second of all, that card is so important they would risk this? Does this confirm the theory that what they are seeing in the office, like the numbers or even the goats, aren't what is really there? The card was pretty harmless looking, so what was really on there? Like I said earlier, is it a clue that there is something dangerous on the severed floor that may need to be fought off? Dylan lets him know that he hid it in the bathroom. Wouldn't the detectives have caught him taking it anyway? Then Dylan's son walks in and hugs him, calling him daddy. Milchek gets firm and tells the kid that he told him to count to 1,000 and wait outside. Dylan is shocked, asking, "Is that my kid?" But Milchek picks up his phone and says, "End it." We see a red switch flip from on to off, and Audie Dylan comes back. He seems to know Milchek and is very calm about the whole thing. Much like Helly's Audie, Dylan's Audie doesn't seem concerned at all about his any experience. The fact that the severed people can be switched off and on like that is a total game changer. It makes me think that they are slowly brainwashing and conditioning all the innies, so at some point they can just switch all the innies on for good. And what is Dylan's innie gonna think when he's back at the office? He's got to tell everyone else what happened, right? They were already on the verge of rebellion. This might just be what pushes them over the edge. Mark and Alexa have now finished their date, and Mark sees that Petey's daughter's band is playing. They go to the show and find out she's in some kind of punk or goth metal band. The song they are playing is called I Hate You Lumen, and Mark really gets into it. I think it's awesome that both Innie and Outie Mark are rebelling in their own way against the company. Grainer shows up to Koble's house to let her know that he may have tracked down Rugabi in some old lab building. He wonders about her nurse outfit, and it's pretty hilarious. Mark wakes up with Alexa, and after seeing Petey's daughter, he's feeling motivated to get the flip phone from the trash. He puts the battery back in, which of course is still working, and the phone immediately rings. He finally picks up, and it's a woman on the other end who knows who he is. Petey must have told her about him before he died. Mark tells her that he just wants to understand what is going on with Lumen, and he goes to meet her. At the same time, we see contractors installing security doors in MDR. I guess no hallway trips for a while. Mark heads to the building and a woman meets him in the hallway. We find out that Mark used to teach at the school they are meeting at. This must be Rugabi, but before we can learn more, the episode ends. Wow, excellent episode. A lot of reveals, but also a pretty big cliffhanger until next week. Does the fact that Mark used to work at the school, maybe where Rugabi's lab is, have anything to do with what's going on? Will we find out that he's had memories wiped? Maybe moving the numbers around are a way of removing memories from severed people. And what are the hatchets, watering cans, and goats for? We did see a room full of plants, but they need 1, maybe 2 watering cans max for that place. When I hear about the hatchets, I thought of both the goats being sacrificed or them being used in some inner office battle. We also learned that Koble's Kier allegiance goes way back and that she might be the most Kiered out of anyone at Lumen. And what is Dylan's Innie gonna think about seeing part of his Outie life, including the fact that he's a father? As always, let me hear your theories in the comments. I may grab a few and make a video discussing them. Also, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like, and I'll be back with more videos soon. I plan to cover Severance, and I'll also do videos on The Boys, The Umbrella Academy, and possibly even the Obi-Wan Disney Plus show and Marvel's Moon Knight. Hopefully you'll be back to join me. Once again, I'm Brent the Middleman. I'll see you next time.